infinite void. On board the human ship Odyssey, Captain Ryan Collins stood at the helm, his eyes fixed on the vast expanse before him. The crew had been traveling for months, their mission clear: to explore uncharted regions of space and search for signs of intelligent life. It was a dream shared by humanity for centuries, but one that always seemed just out of reach. That is, until today, a sudden blip appeared on the radar, catching the attention of Lieutenant Maria Lopez, the communications officer. She adjusted her headset, her fingers dancing over the console as she analyzed the signal. "Captain," she said, her voice steady but tinged with excitement, "we've got something." "A vessel approaching fast?" Ryan turned to face her, his brow furrowing. "Are you sure? Could it be debris or a glitch in the system?" Maria shook her head. "No, sir, this is no glitch. It's moving with purpose, and—" Her voice trailed off as the screen flickered, displaying an image of the approaching object. The ship was unlike anything they had ever seen, smooth, sleek, and glowing faintly with an otherworldly light. Its design was alien yet strangely beautiful. "Sound the alarm," Ryan ordered, his tone firm. "Get everyone to their stations. We don't know what we're dealing with here." As the crew scrambled to prepare, the alien ship slowed to a halt just outside the Odyssey's range. For a moment there was silence, the kind that made the hairs on the back of your neck stand up. Then a message came through, transmitted directly into the ship's communication system. It wasn't in any language the crew recognized, but thanks to advanced translation software, the words appeared on the main screen in clear, simple English: "We come in peace." The bridge erupted into murmurs. Some crew members exchanged nervous glances, while others grinned with disbelief. Humanity had dreamed of this moment for so long, but now that it was here, it felt surreal. Ryan raised a hand to quiet the chatter. "Lieutenant Lopez, can we respond?" Maria nodded, her hands flying over the controls. "Yes, sir, I'm patching us through now." She took a deep breath before speaking into the microphone. "This is Captain Ryan Collins of the Earth vessel Odyssey. We acknowledge your message. State your intentions." The response came almost immediately. "We are the Valith. We seek knowledge and understanding. Your world interests us." Ryan glanced at Dr. Emily Carter, the ship's xenobiologist, who had been quietly observing from the corner. Her expression was unreadable, a mix of curiosity and caution. He gestured for her to join him at the center of the bridge. "What do you think?" he asked in a low voice. Emily hesitated. "I don't know. They seem peaceful enough, but there's something about them, something we can't see yet. We need to proceed carefully." Ryan nodded, then turned back to Maria. "Tell them we're willing to meet, but only if they agree to certain conditions. No weapons, no sudden movements, and they stay within designated areas of the ship." Maria relayed the message, and after a brief pause, the Valith responded, "We accept your terms. We will send an envoy to your vessel shortly." As the transmission ended, the tension aboard the Odyssey was palpable. The crew worked quickly to prepare for the arrival of their alien visitors, setting up a secure meeting area and running last-minute checks on all systems. Ryan paced back and forth, his mind racing with possibilities. Were these aliens truly as benevolent as they claimed, or was this some elaborate ruse? When the Valith finally arrived, they did so with an elegance that left the humans in awe. Their ship extended a slender, tube-like structure, docking seamlessly with the Odyssey. Moments later, the airlock hissed open, and the first of the Valith stepped through. They were tall, towering over the humans, with elongated limbs and shimmering skin that seemed to shift colors depending on the angle of the light. Their faces were smooth and featureless except for two large, luminous eyes that glowed softly. Ambassador Kale, the leader of the group, introduced himself and his companions. His voice, transmitted through a device attached to his chest, was calm and measured. "We thank you for welcoming us. We mean no harm." Ryan extended a hand, unsure if the gesture would be understood. To his surprise, Kale mimicked the motion, his hand cool and smooth against Ryan's palm. "Welcome aboard," Ryan said. "We're honored to make your acquaintance." The meeting began cordially, with both sides exchanging information about their respective civilizations. The Valeth spoke eloquently about their history, their achievements, and their desire to learn from other species. They asked thoughtful questions about Earth, its culture, and its people. For a while, it seemed like everything was going smoothly, but then something unexpected happened. As Kale moved to inspect a railing near the hydroponics bay, the metal beneath his touch began to corrode. At first, it was subtle, a slight discoloration, but within seconds, the material bubbled and dissolved, leaving behind a jagged hole. The crew gasped, stepping back instinctively. Kale froze, his glowing eyes widening in apparent shock. "This was not our intention," he said quickly. "Our biology, it is incompatible with your environment. We did not foresee this reaction." Dr. Carter stepped forward, her voice calm but firm. "Incompatible how? What exactly is happening here?" Kale explained that their bodies emitted trace amounts of enzymes designed to break down organic matter. These enzymes were harmless to the Valeth but destructive to Earth-based materials. The revelation sent a chill through the room. If even brief contact caused such damage, what would happen if the Valeth visited Earth itself? Ryan clenched his fist, trying to keep his emotions in check. "Is there any way to prevent this? Any solution you can offer?" Kale hesitated. "We have containment protocols, but they require specialized equipment. Without it, prolonged interaction with your world may prove problematic." The weight of the situation settled heavily on the shoulders of everyone present. Humanity had finally made contact with an alien species, only to discover that their very existence posed a threat. As the meeting drew to a close, Ryan couldn't help but wonder if this encounter would bring them closer to the stars or push them further away. Kale had apologized repeatedly for the unintended damage caused by his biology, but the tension in the air was impossible to ignore. The crew of the Odyssey worked quickly to repair the corroded railing, though it was clear that the incident had shaken their confidence. Lieutenant Maria Lopez stood at her station, replaying the moment in her mind. She had seen the look of genuine surprise on Kale's face when the metal began to dissolve. Was it truly an accident, or was there more to it? Dr. Emily Carter, meanwhile, was deep in thought. She had spent years studying alien ecosystems and hypothetical first contact scenarios, but nothing in her training could have prepared her for this. The Valeth were unlike anything humanity had imagined, advanced, intelligent, and seemingly peaceful, yet inherently dangerous to Earth's environment. As she analyzed samples of the corroded material, she couldn't shake the feeling that there was something they were missing. Something bigger. Captain Ryan Collins called a private meeting with his senior officers. The room was small and dimly lit, the hum of the ship's engines providing a steady backdrop. "All right," Ryan began, leaning against the table. "Let's talk about what just happened. What do we know so far?" Maria spoke first. "Their biology is incompatible with ours." "That much is clear, but they claim it's unintentional." "I'm not sure if we can trust them completely," Emily nodded. "It's possible they're telling the truth. Their enzymes might be a natural part of their physiology, something they've never had to think about until now. But even if it's accidental, the consequences are serious. If they set foot on Earth, they could cause widespread destruction." Without even realizing it, Ryan frowned. "And what about their intentions? Do we believe them when they say they're here to learn and cooperate?" "That's the tricky part," Emily replied. "They seem sincere, but we don't know enough about their culture or motivations. For all we know, this could be some kind of test or worse, a trap." The conversation was interrupted by a sudden alarm blaring through the ship. Red lights flashed on the walls as the computer announced, "Warning, contamination detected in hydroponics bay. Biohazard level elevated." Ryan's heart sank. "What now?" he muttered, rushing out of the room with the others close behind. They made their way to the hydroponics bay, where the crew was already scrambling to contain the situation. The plants, once vibrant and green, were wilting and blackened, their leaves curling inward as if burned. Strange, shimmering particles floated in the air, clustering around the edges of the room. "What the hell is going on?" Ryan demanded, turning to Emily. She knelt down to examine the particles, her expression growing more troubled by the second. These aren't from the Valith, she said. They're something else. Microscopic organisms, maybe. They must have been drawn here by the energy signature of the Valith ship. Maria looked horrified. You mean those things are aliens too? Not necessarily, Emily explained. They could be native to deep space, dormant until something triggers them. The Valith's presence seems to have activated them, and now they're multiplying rapidly. Ryan clenched his jaw. Can we stop them? I don't know yet, Emily admitted. But if we don't act fast, they'll spread to other parts of the ship. And that's assuming they stay contained here. If they get into the life support systems? She didn't need to finish the sentence. Everyone understood the stakes. Without functioning life support, the Odyssey would become a floating tomb. Ryan turned to Maria. Contact the Valith. Tell them what's happening. Maybe they can help. Maria hesitated. Are you sure that's wise, sir? After what just happened, I'm not sure we should trust them. We don't have a choice, Ryan snapped. If they created this mess, they owe us answers and solutions. Maria nodded and relayed the message to the Valith ship. To everyone's relief, Cale responded almost immediately. His voice came through the comm system, calm but tinged with concern. We are aware of the situation. These organisms are not of our making, but their reaction to our energy fields is predictable. We will assist you. Moments later, the Valith envoy returned to the Odyssey, moving carefully to avoid further contact with the ship's surfaces. Cale carried a small device that emitted a soft, pulsating light. He approached the hydroponics bay, flanked by two of his companions. This containment field will neutralize the organisms, he explained. However, it must be deployed quickly before they adapt. The crew watched anxiously as Cale activated the device. The shimmering particles began to slow their chaotic movement, clustering together in response to the light. Within minutes, they dissolved into harmless dust. Leaving the air clear and breathable once again, Ryan let out a breath he hadn't realized he'd been holding. Thank you, he said, addressing Cale. We couldn't have done that without your help. Cale inclined his head slightly. It was the least we could do. However, this incident underscores the dangers of our interaction. Perhaps it would be best if we parted ways before further complications arise. Ryan wanted to agree, but something held him back. The Valith had caused problems, yes, but they had also solved one. Could humanity afford to turn away potential allies, especially when the universe seemed so full of unknown threats? Before he could respond, another transmission came through, one that sent chills down everyone's spines. General Alan Hayes, commander of Earth's Space Fleet, appeared on the main screen. His stern face filled the monitor, his voice cutting through the tension like a knife. Captain Collins, report. What is the status of your mission? Ryan stepped forward, knowing there was no point in sugarcoating the situation. Sir, we've made contact with an alien species, the Valith. They appear to be explorers seeking knowledge, but their biology is incompatible with our environment. Additionally, their presence triggered an infestation of microscopic organisms that threatened the ship. With their assistance, we've contained the threat, but Hayes cut him off sharply. Enough. You're telling me these aliens nearly destroyed your ship, and you're still entertaining their presence. This isn't a negotiation, Collins. Stand down and prepare for reinforcements. We're sending a fleet to intercept? Ryan's stomach tightened. Sir, with respect, firing on them could escalate the situation. They've shown no signs of hostility. They corroded your ship and unleashed a biohazard, Hayes barked. That's hostile enough for me. I won't risk Earth's safety because you're too soft to pull the trigger. Await further instructions. The transmission ended abruptly, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. Maria broke the quiet first. He's sending a fleet? Against the Valith? Sir, they'll tear us apart? Ryan knew she was right. The Valith's technology was far beyond anything humanity possessed. A direct confrontation would end in disaster. He turned to Cale. You heard that. My superiors are sending warships. They see you as a threat. Cale's glowing eyes dimmed slightly as if in disappointment. We regret that our arrival has brought such fear. We meant no harm to your people. However, if your leaders choose aggression, we will defend ourselves." Ryan felt a pang of guilt. Despite the danger the Veilith posed, they had acted honorably so far. It wasn't fair to punish them for circumstances beyond their control. "There has to be another way," he muttered. Emily stepped forward, her voice firm. "Maybe there is. General Hayes doesn't understand the full picture. If we can convince him that the real threat isn't the Veilith, but those organisms, he might stand down." "How do we do that?" Maria asked. "By the time we explain everything, the fleet will already be here. Then we'll have to act fast," Ryan decided. "Lieutenant Lopez, send a detailed report to command. Include everything we've learned about the organisms and emphasize that the Veilith helped us neutralize them. Dr. Carter, keep analyzing the data. Find anything that proves the organisms are the greater danger. And Kale," he turned to the alien ambassador, "I need you to hold your position. Don't make any sudden moves. Let us handle this." Kale studied Ryan for a long moment before nodding. "Very well, we will wait. But know this, if your fleet attacks, we will not hesitate to retaliate." As Kale and his companions returned to their ship, Ryan couldn't shake the feeling that time was running out. The Veilith had shown restraint, but how long would that last if Earth's fleet arrived guns blazing? And what would happen if the organisms adapted to the containment field and spread beyond the Odyssey? For now, all they could do was hope that reason would prevail over fear. Their movements sharp and hurried as they prepared for the arrival of Earth's fleet. Captain Ryan Collins paced back and forth on the bridge, his mind racing with possibilities. He knew the reinforcements General Hayes had promised would arrive soon, too soon, and when they did, there was no guarantee they could prevent a conflict. Lieutenant Maria Lopez sat at her station, her fingers flying over the controls as she sent a detailed report to command. She included everything: the Veilith's peaceful intentions, the accidental corrosion caused by their biology, and the threat posed by the mysterious organisms. She even attached visual evidence of the damage and the containment field used to neutralize the swarm. Still, she couldn't shake the feeling it wouldn't be enough. "Sir," she said, glancing up at Ryan, "do you really think command will listen?" General Hayes sounded determined. Ryan stopped pacing and looked at her, his expression grim. "I don't know, Maria, but we have to try. If we can make them see the bigger picture, maybe, just maybe, they'll hold off long enough for us to figure this out." Dr. Emily Carter, meanwhile, was deep in the science lab, analyzing samples of the organisms under a high-powered microscope. Her brow furrowed as she studied their structure, noting how quickly they had adapted to the containment field. "These things are evolving," she muttered to herself. "They're not just multiplying, they're changing, becoming more complex." She called Ryan over to show him her findings. On the screen, the organisms appeared as tiny, shimmering shapes, but closer inspection revealed intricate patterns forming within their clusters. "Look at this," Emily explained, pointing to the screen. "They're starting to organize themselves into something resembling machines. It's like they're using the energy from the Veilith's ship to grow smarter, stronger." Ryan frowned. "So what happens if they get loose again?" "Then we're looking at a much bigger problem," Emily replied. "If these organisms reach Earth, they could spread uncontrollably. They'd consume resources, disrupt ecosystems, maybe even overwhelm entire cities. The Veilith may have triggered their activation, but they're the real threat here." Ryan nodded slowly. "We need to make sure command understands that. If they focus all their firepower on the Veilith, they'll miss the real danger." As if on cue, the radar pinged, signaling the approach of multiple vessels. The Earth fleet had arrived. Led by the heavily armed cruiser Eclipse, the ships formed a perimeter around the Odyssey and the Veilith vessel. General Allen Hayes' voice crackled over the comm system, stern and unyielding. "Captain Collins, report your status. Are the aliens still aboard your ship?" Ryan stepped up to the microphone, his tone measured but firm. "Negative, sir. The Veilith ambassador has returned to their vessel." General, I urge you to reconsider engaging them. They've shown no signs of aggression and have actually helped us contain a biohazard caused by... Hayes interrupted him sharply. That's enough, Collins. You've done your part. Now step aside and let the professionals handle this. Stand down or face disciplinary action. Ryan clenched his jaw but didn't argue further. He knew there was no reasoning with Hayes right now. Instead, he turned to Maria. Open a channel to the Valeth. We need to warn them. Maria nodded and patched through the transmission. Ambassador Kale's calm voice came through almost immediately. What is your decision, Captain Collins? Ryan hesitated, choosing his words carefully. General Hayes has ordered an attack. I tried to convince him otherwise, but they're not listening. Please, Kale, if you value your safety, leave while you still can. There was a pause before Kale responded. We regret that your leaders see us as enemies. However, fleeing would only confirm their fears. We will remain here, ready to defend ourselves if necessary. Ryan sighed, frustration bubbling beneath the surface. Kale, I understand where you're coming from, but if you stay, people will die. Innocent people. Is that what you want? No, Kale replied, but neither do we wish to appear weak. Your fleet must learn that aggression will not go unanswered. Before Ryan could respond, alarms blared throughout the ship. The Eclipse had fired a warning shot, its bright beam streaking past the Valeth vessel. Everyone on the bridge froze, watching as the alien ship remained eerily still. For a moment, it seemed like the Valeth might ignore the provocation. But then, without warning, they retaliated. Their weapons were unlike anything the humans had ever seen. A single blast from the Valeth ship struck one of the smaller cruisers in the Earth fleet, disabling it instantly. The crew scrambled to evacuate as the vessel drifted helplessly in space, its systems fried. Panic erupted across the fleet, and orders flew back and forth as ships scrambled to form a defensive line. Ryan watched in horror as chaos unfolded outside the Odyssey. This is madness, he muttered. Both sides are escalating, and no one's thinking about the consequences. Maria's voice trembled as she spoke. Sir, the Valeth are winning. Their technology is too advanced. We're outmatched. I know, Ryan said, his voice low. But we can't just sit here and watch. We need to find a way to stop this. Emily, who had been quietly observing the battle, suddenly spoke up. Wait a minute. What if we use the organisms against them? Ryan turned to her, confused. What do you mean? The organisms thrive on energy, Emily explained. They're drawn to the Valeth bioluminescent emissions, but they also respond to our own power sources. If we can redirect their growth toward the battlefield, it might force both sides to stand down or at least buy us some time to negotiate. Ryan considered the idea, weighing the risks. It was a desperate plan, but desperate times called for desperate measures. All right, he said finally. Let's do it. How do we lure them out? Emily grabbed a tablet and began typing furiously. We'll need to release controlled bursts of energy near the affected areas. That should attract the organisms and encourage them to multiply. Once they're concentrated enough, we can deploy another containment field to trap them in place. Ryan nodded. Get to work. Maria, keep monitoring the situation. Let me know if either side makes a move. As Emily and Maria coordinated their efforts, Ryan turned his attention back to the battle raging outside. The Earth fleet was struggling to hold its ground, their weapons proving ineffective against the Valeth's superior firepower. Several ships had already sustained heavy damage, and the Eclipse itself was showing signs of strain. General Hayes's voice came through once again, this time filled with anger and frustration. Collins, why aren't you firing? Get your ship into position and support the fleet. Ryan ignored the order, focusing instead on the task at hand. He trusted Emily's plan, even if it meant defying direct commands. As the energy bursts were released, the organisms began to swarm, drawn to the intense radiation emanating from the battlefield. Their shimmering forms coalesced into dense clouds, blocking the view of the opposing forces. The Valeth, realizing the new threat, ceased their attacks and retreated slightly, their glowing eyes fixed on the growing mass of organisms. Similarly, The Earth fleet paused, unsure of what to make of the sudden development. For the first time since the standoff began, there was a brief lull in the fighting. Ryan seized the opportunity. Maria, open a channel to both sides. Tell them we've identified the organisms as the primary threat and propose a temporary ceasefire to deal with the issue. Maria complied, her voice steady despite the tension. To everyone's surprise, both the Valeth and General Hayes agreed to the proposal. Though reluctant, Hayes recognized the potential danger posed by the organisms and reluctantly ordered his fleet to stand down for now, with the immediate threat contained. Ryan allowed himself a moment of relief. But he knew the peace was fragile, held together by little more than mutual self-interest. As the crew worked to stabilize the situation, he couldn't help but wonder how long it would last, and whether humanity was truly ready to face the challenges of the cosmos. For now, though, they had bought themselves some time. Time to think, to plan, and perhaps to find a way forward that didn't involve destruction. Captain Ryan Collins stood on the bridge, watching as the shimmering mass of organisms hovered between the Earth fleet and the Valeth ship. The creatures, once tiny and insignificant, had grown into a pulsating cloud of glowing particles, their movements erratic yet purposeful. It was clear they were evolving rapidly, responding to the energy fields emitted by both sides. Dr. Emily Carter worked tirelessly in the science lab, her eyes glued to the monitors as she analyzed the organism's behavior. She had set up additional containment fields around the affected areas, hoping to slow their spread while she figured out a way to neutralize them permanently. "These things are learning," she muttered to herself, adjusting the settings on her equipment. "They're not just reacting, they're adapting. If we don't act soon, they'll become unstoppable." Ryan joined her in the lab, his expression grim. "How bad is it?" he asked, leaning against the counter. Emily didn't look up from her work. "Bad, they're forming structures now, patterns that resemble circuits or neural networks. I think they're starting to mimic the technology they've been exposed to. If they reach the ship's power cores, they could drain them completely." Ryan's stomach tightened. "Can we destroy them?" "Not without risking catastrophic damage to our own systems," Emily replied. "Our weapons aren't designed for something like this. And even if we could target them, the energy released might trigger an explosion." Ryan sighed, running a hand through his hair. "So what do we do? Sit here and wait for them to overrun us?" "No," Emily said firmly. "We contain them for now and find a way to redirect their growth, but we can't do it alone." "We need the Valeth's help," Ryan hesitated. Asking the Valeth for assistance felt like walking a tightrope. On one hand, they had already proven capable of neutralizing the organisms earlier. On the other hand, trusting them fully still felt like a gamble. "Do you think they'll cooperate?" he asked. "They have to," Emily said. "If these organisms get loose, they'll be just as screwed as we are. Their biology might protect them from corrosion, but their ships won't survive an infestation." Convinced, Ryan returned to the bridge and opened a channel to the Valeth vessel. Ambassador Kale appeared on the screen, his luminous eyes steady but cautious. "What is your request?" "Captain Collins?" he asked. Ryan got straight to the point. "The organisms are evolving faster than we anticipated. Our containment fields are holding for now, but we can't stop them indefinitely. We need your technology to neutralize them completely." Kale tilted his head slightly as if considering the proposal. "You ask much of us. How do we know this? Is not a ruse to gain access to our systems?" "I'm not asking for anything beyond what's necessary to solve this problem," Ryan replied. "If we don't work together, those organisms will consume everything, including your ship. You saw what happened earlier. Do you really want to take that risk?" After a long pause, Kale nodded. "Very well, we will assist you. But understand this. If your fleet attacks again, we will retaliate without hesitation." "Understood," Ryan said. He turned off the transmission and turned to Maria. "Let's hope this works." Meanwhile, General Alan Hayes fumed aboard the Eclipse. The standoff had gone on long enough, and he was growing increasingly impatient. To him, the Valeth were nothing more than a threat that needed to be eliminated. That Ryan Collins had refused to follow orders only fueled his anger. "Lieutenant Foster," he barked, addressing his communications officer, "send a message to the Odyssey. Tell Collins that if he doesn't resume firing within the hour, I'll relieve him of command." Lieutenant Foster hesitated. "Sir, the organisms— I don't care about the damn organisms." Hayes snapped. "This is about protecting Earth. Those aliens are dangerous, and every second we waste gives them time to prepare for another attack. Now send the message." Foster reluctantly complied, knowing full well that Ryan would ignore the order. Still, the pressure from command was mounting, and the crew of the Eclipse braced themselves for what might come next. Back on the Odyssey, Maria intercepted the message and immediately relayed it to Ryan. "Sir, Hayes is threatening to remove you from command if we don't attack," she said, her voice tinged with worry. Ryan clenched his fists but kept his composure. "He can try. But right now, my priority is keeping this crew and this mission alive. Let him rant all he wants." Maria nodded, though she couldn't hide her unease. "What do we tell him?" "Nothing," Ryan replied. "We keep working with the Valeth and focus on neutralizing the organisms. If Hayes wants to court-martial me later, so be it." As the hours passed, the collaboration between the humans and the Valeth began to yield results. Using a combination of Earth-based engineering and Valeth technology, they developed a device capable of dispersing the organisms harmlessly into space. The process was delicate, requiring precise coordination between both species, but slowly, the shimmering cloud began to shrink. Emily monitored the operation closely, her heart pounding with anticipation. "It's working," she whispered, almost afraid to jinx it. "The organisms are breaking apart. They're losing cohesion." Ryan allowed himself a small smile. "Good work, everyone. Keep it up." But just as hope began to rise, disaster struck. One of the Earth cruisers, misinterpreting the shrinking cloud as a sign of weakness, fired a stray shot at the Valeth ship. The blast missed its mark, but the damage was done. The Valeth reacted instantly, their weapons trained on the offending vessel. Within moments, the cruiser was disabled, its crew scrambling to evacuate. General Hayes' voice thundered over the comm system. "Collins, what the hell is going on?" "Why aren't you firing back?" Ryan's temper flared. "Because attacking them wasn't part of the plan. That cruiser disobeyed orders, and now we're paying the price." "You're too soft, Collins," Hayes growled. "This is exactly why I should have taken command from the start." "Stand down, or I'll do it myself." Ryan ignored him, turning instead to Maria. "Open a channel to the Valeth. Tell them it was a mistake and isolated incident. We're still committed to the ceasefire." Maria complied, her hands trembling as she patched through the transmission. Cale's voice came through, calm but firm. "Your people continue to test our patience, Captain Collins. How can we trust you when such incidents occur?" Ryan took a deep breath, choosing his words carefully. "I can't speak for everyone, Cale, but I can assure you that the majority of us want peace. If we let fear and mistrust dictate our actions, we'll lose everything, including any chance of solving this crisis." There was a long pause before Cale responded. "Very well. We will grant you one final opportunity. But know this, another attack will not go unanswered." As the transmission ended, Ryan turned to his crew. "All right, people, we've been given a second chance. Let's not waste it. Focus on finishing the job and getting these organisms under control." The team worked tirelessly, their movements synchronized despite the chaos surrounding them. Slowly, but surely, the organism cloud dissipated, its remnants drifting harmlessly into the void. When the last traces were gone, a collective sigh of relief swept through the Odyssey. For the first time in hours, it felt like they could breathe again. With the immediate threat neutralized, attention turned to the aftermath. General Hayes demanded a full report, his tone icy and unforgiving. "Explain yourselves, Collins. Why did you defy direct orders? And why are you still coddling those aliens?" Ryan met the general's glare head-on. "Because they helped us save this fleet, sir. Without their assistance, those organisms would have destroyed us all. And as for defying orders, I did what I believed was best for the mission." If you want to court-martial me for that, go ahead. But I stand by my decisions. Hayes's jaw tightened, but he said nothing more. Instead, he turned his attention to the Valeth ship, which remained stationary in the distance. Fine, he muttered. But mark my words, Collins, if they step out of line again, I won't hesitate to act. Ryan didn't respond. He knew there was no reasoning with Hayes, not when fear and pride clouded his judgment. Instead, he focused on the task at hand, ensuring that humanity learned from this experience. Ambassador Kale reached out one final time before departing. Captain Collins, we regret that our presence has caused such turmoil. Perhaps it was a mistake to contact your world. Your species is young, volatile, and unprepared for the challenges of the cosmos. We wish you well, but we must leave now. Ryan nodded, feeling a pang of regret. I understand, Kale, and I'm sorry for everything. Maybe someday, when we're ready, we'll meet again. As the Valeth ship disappeared into the stars, Ryan gazed out at the vast expanse of space. Humanity had survived its first brush with alien life, but the cost had been high. Trust had been broken, lessons had been learned, and the road ahead seemed fraught with uncertainty. Yet, despite it all, Ryan couldn't help but feel a glimmer of hope. Somewhere out there, among the endless stars, lay the promise of discovery and perhaps redemption. On the crew of the Odyssey, Captain Ryan Collins stood on the bridge, staring at the empty void where the alien vessel had been moments before. The encounter had ended, but its impact lingered like an open wound. Humanity had made first contact with an advanced species, only to nearly destroy itself in the process. Lieutenant Maria Lopez broke the quiet. Do you think we'll ever see them again? She asked softly, her fingers resting lightly on the combs. Console, Ryan didn't answer right away. He wasn't sure what to say. The Valeth's parting words echoed in his mind. Perhaps it was a mistake to contact your world. It stung, not just because it felt like a rejection, but because deep down he knew they were right. Humanity was young, impulsive, and unprepared for the complexities of interstellar diplomacy. Still, there was a flicker of hope buried beneath the regret. Maybe, he said finally, if we learn from this, maybe someday. Dr. Emily Carter joined them, her face pale with exhaustion but her eyes sharp with determination. We can't afford to forget what happened here, she said firmly. This wasn't just about us or the Valeth, it was about how fragile everything is. One wrong move and we could have lost everything, Ryan nodded. You're right. We need to document every detail, the organisms, the Valeth's technology, their behavior, everything. If we don't, we risk repeating the same mistakes. Maria sighed. And what about command? Hayes isn't going to let this go. He'll demand answers. And he won't like hearing that we worked with the Valeth instead of attacking them. I know, Ryan admitted, but we did what we had to do. If Hayes wants to punish me for it, so be it. At least I can look myself in the mirror knowing I made the right call. The General Alan Hayes was furious. Back aboard the Eclipse, he paced. The length of the command center, his boots clicking sharply against the metal floor. The mission had spiraled out of control, and in his eyes, Ryan Collins was to blame. Stand down? Collaborate with the enemy? What was he thinking? Hayes muttered to himself, his voice dripping with disdain. Lieutenant Foster, standing nearby, cleared his throat nervously. Sir, the organisms are gone. The threat has been neutralized. Doesn't that count for something? Hayes stopped pacing and turned to glare at him. Neutralized because we let those aliens walk all over us. That's not victory, Lieutenant. That's weakness. And weakness invites more trouble. But sir, Foster pressed cautiously, the Valeth helped us. Without their technology, we wouldn't have been able to stop the organisms. Doesn't that mean enough? Hayes barked. I don't care what they did or didn't do. The fact remains that humanity came face to face with an alien species, and instead of asserting our dominance, we rolled over like cowards. That's unacceptable, Foster fell silent, knowing better than to argue further. Hayes's pride wouldn't allow him to see reason, no matter how clear the evidence. Instead, he focused on preparing the fleet for departure. The standoff was over, but the fallout was just beginning. Back on Earth, news of the encounter spread quickly. Governments convened emergency meetings, scientists debated the implications of the Valeth's existence, and ordinary citizens argued over whether humanity should pursue further contact with extraterrestrial life. Opinions were divided. Some viewed the Valeth as saviors who had helped humanity avoid catastrophe. Others saw them as invaders who had exposed Earth's vulnerabilities. Fear and uncertainty gripped the planet, overshadowing any sense of wonder or curiosity. In the midst of the chaos, Ryan and his crew returned home. Their arrival was met with mixed reactions. Admirals praised their ingenuity and resourcefulness, while critics accused them of undermining Earth's security. Ryan endured hours of questioning during debriefings, defending every decision he had made aboard the Odyssey. It was exhausting, but he refused to back down. "We did what needed to be done," he told the panel sternly. "If anyone thinks they could have handled it better, they're welcome to try next time." Emily presented her findings to a team of researchers, detailing the organism's behavior and the potential risks they posed. Her report painted a sobering picture. Humanity wasn't ready for the unknown dangers lurking in space. "We got lucky this time," she warned. "But luck doesn't last forever. If we want to survive, we need to invest in better technology, stricter protocols, and a deeper understanding of the universe around us." Maria, meanwhile, found herself struggling to adjust to life back on Earth. The events aboard the Odyssey had left her shaken, haunted by thoughts of what might have happened if things had gone differently. She often replayed the moment when the organisms began to swarm, wondering if she could have acted faster, communicated more clearly. It wasn't until Ryan pulled her aside one day that she began to feel a sense of closure. "Maria," he said gently, "you did good work out there. None of this was your fault." She looked up at him, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "I just keep thinking about how close we came to losing everything. What if we hadn't figured it out in time?" Ryan placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Then we'd be dead, and Earth would be dealing with the consequences, but we didn't fail. We adapted, we survived, and we learned. That's what matters." Weeks passed, and the initial frenzy surrounding the encounter began to fade. Life on Earth returned to normal, or as normal as it could be after such an event. Scientists continued studying the data collected during the mission, searching for ways to prevent similar crises in the future. Politicians drafted new policies governing space exploration, balancing the desire for discovery with the need for caution. For Ryan, the experience changed him in ways he couldn't fully articulate. He still believed in humanity's potential to reach for the stars, but he also understood the risks involved. Exploration wasn't just about finding new worlds. It was about learning to coexist with the unknown, and sometimes that meant stepping back instead of charging forward. One evening, as he sat alone in his quarters, he pulled out a small recording device. On it was a message from Ambassador Kale, sent shortly before the Valeth departed. Ryan had listened to it dozens of times, each word etched into his memory. "Captain Collins," Kale's voice began, calm and measured, "we leave your world with mixed feelings. Your species possesses great courage and intelligence, but also recklessness and fear. These traits will shape your destiny, for better or worse. Perhaps in time you will grow wiser. Until then, may your journey through the stars bring you both challenge and enlightenment." Ryan set the device down, staring out the window at the night sky. Somewhere out there, the Valeth were continuing their voyage, seeking knowledge and understanding. And somewhere else, countless other civilizations waited, their intentions unknown. Humanity had taken its first step into the cosmos, stumbling. An uncertain but alive as he gazed at the stars, Ryan allowed himself a small smile. The road ahead would be difficult, fraught with challenges and compromises. But it was a road worth traveling. After all, the greatest discoveries often came from taking risks, even when failure loomed large, and so, with hope tempered by humility, humanity prepared to face whatever lay beyond the horizon.